Welcome to D-ConneXion TV. I'm Donzale Powell with D-Connex LLC, and I'm so excited today because we have Urban League of Middle Tennessee with us, which is a nonprofit serving the community. So, ladies, thank you so much for joining me. Appreciate you coming in. And if you could just tell me a little bit about yourself, just a quick introduction for me.
Okay, sure. I'll start. So I'm Janet Martin, and I'm actually relatively new to the Urban League team. I've been with Urban League 2 months now.
Wow.
Yeah, it seems longer, but in a good way.
Yeah.
But I am responsible for fundraising. My title is Director of Fund Development. And so I'm out in the community, raising money, raising support for Urban League and the work that we do.
Awesome. Awesome.
Hi, and I'm Carolyn Coleman. Like Janet, I'm new to Urban League as well. I've been with the Urban League for 4 months now, and I am responsible for the activities that happen in our new program, the Red Academy.
Ooh, sounds good. Okay, so you got to beat by 2 months.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good. But I think it's good for organizations to bring in new people sometimes. You guys have a different perspective. And just tell me, are you all from the Nashville area? Where are you from? Because that can also gauge, your perspectives and what you're bringing to the table.
Absolutely.
Well, yes and no.
Okay.
So I'm originally from Middle Tennessee, southern Middle Tennessee, a little town called Huntland, Tennessee, that's in Franklin County. People know Winchester, so it's in Winchester. So I went to school in the area, actually lived in Nashville many, many years ago for about 4 years. And through what I say life experiences, went into higher education in Huntsville, Alabama for a while, and then moved back to the area. So I'm somewhat familiar with this area, with Nashville, with Middle Tennessee, but it's changed a lot. And we were having a conversation. It's changed a lot from Nashville that I knew many years ago.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And for you?
Yes, I am originally from St. Louis. I have been back in Nashville probably about 4 months, as long as I've been with Urban League. Yes.
Okay, so one thing I am curious about from the different areas that you've been in, as far as the programs that you all are now, serving people, looking for funding, how different are those environments from where you were just a few months ago compared to where you are here now?
Well, actually, for me, it's not that different because I moved back to this area to Murfreesboro about 3 years ago and worked for another nonprofit that also sort of had a regional focus. So it's really not a lot different for me. It's just a different environment, different organization, but a lot of the same kind of work, just at a different level. More what I feel is more kind of community centered. And I did fundraising and external affairs in another life. So it's not a lot different than what I was doing before. It's just a different organization, a different group of wonderful people.
Awesome. Awesome. And for you?
And for me, I've worked in nonprofits probably the majority of my adult life.
Yeah.
So it's not different. The portion of serving, I am very familiar with that. So I just bring with me that same attitude, that same momentum in serving our participants in the Urban League.
Awesome. I love it. I was just curious because sometimes I'll go to different areas of Tennessee. I go to Knoxville fairly frequently, sometimes Memphis, and totally different.
Yeah.
Each one is totally different. So I didn't know if it was the same for that. Now, let's get started with, we want to hear what it is that you all do. It's so many things. I know one of the primary umbrellas has always been workforce development, at least from my standpoint. And that's where I actually, learned about Urban League years ago, was from the workforce development standpoint. So just tell me, what are some of the things that you're doing in that space?
Well, that's correct. And a lot of people will say, what does Urban League do? And so they'll say, well, so do you know what NAACP does? They're like, yeah, do you do that? And we're like, sort of, kind of, but not really. We work primarily with African Americans and people in underrepresented communities as NAACP does. But what we do, as you said, is more from the economic development and workforce development perspective, because we feel if you can get people to where they need to be economically, then all the other things kind of fall into place. We want to make sure that people have affordable housing. We want to make sure that they have a livable wage. And so if that means either employment or employment to the next level, that's basically our concentration.
Absolutely. So I can only imagine with the economy, we've had some fluctuations here. Let's
Exactly.
call it
Yes.
that, fluctuations over these last few years. And so I can see how it might be increasingly difficult to maintain a good quality of living. Prices are going up. So any thoughts on that, or any I guess initiatives or thoughts around how can we try to offset that a little bit?
Well, one of the things that we do is we work very closely with employers in the area because, it's one thing to have a job. It's another thing to have a job with a livable wage. It's another thing to have a job that leads to a career.
Right.
So one of the things that we do is work closely with employers. As I said, and there are a lot of large employers as well as small businesses that we work very closely with to help them kind of align their recruiting efforts to what the workforce is looking for. Again, if it means having training programs where people are learning soft skills, because that seems to be something that we all hear about, which was back in the day when I went to school, that wasn't things that you talked about. Those are just things that just came naturally. You didn't have to teach people how to get along with one another and how to show up on time and how to be committed to your job. So those are things that have to be taught now. And so those are the kinds of trainings that we do in addition to doing skills level training. Somebody may have worked in the fast food industry, which is a big industry in this area. But do they want to continue to be a dishwasher? No, they have other aspirations. So what we try to do is find out what those employers are looking for and then match that training to what the employer is looking for.
Got you. So the kind of basically creating that pipeline.
Exactly.
You've got the dream. You're
Yes.
willing to start here and be able to kind of follow a clear cut path, so that they're not wondering, am I going to do this the rest of my
Right.
life? Or can I stick it out in order to be able to get where I'm really trying to go? So I love that. Anything else around workforce development that you feel like is a hot topic or that is kind of just really important to the Urban League right now?
Well, I don't want Karen to take over the whole conversation.
You can go ahead.
But as the Urban League, clearly diversity, equity, and inclusion is our focus. And that's one of the things that a lot of employers are coming to us now. I mean, we all know what's happened in the last couple of years. In addition to the pandemic, the way people see the workforce now has changed. And so a lot of those employers will come to us asking for our help and our assistance in diversifying their workforce. And it's a good thing that they know to turn to us because we can help them with that. We have a program called Equity in Action that does just that. It matches small businesses with some of those larger businesses so that the two of them can basically play together. Oftentimes, larger businesses are looking for vendors, and they don't sometimes know where to go. And so we bring those smaller businesses to the table so that the two of them can work together and talk together. And then not only does it give those small businesses an opportunity to expand, but it also gives those larger employers an opportunity to have a more diversified workforce, because that's what we want. And this community has become so diverse in so many ways. And so if the workforce is going to reflect the community,
Right.
then we got to start somewhere.
Right. Any other thoughts?
Good answer.
There was. Now, is there anything, I believe I've seen something before, business development. So is that also is that a program? Is that an initiative, or is that just some of the things that you all do on a day-to-day basis?
I'll let Carolyn kind of address that because that comes us to Red Academy. So.
Well, actually, we do have a new program. It's called the Red Academy. Actually, it's called the Real Estate Development Academy, and we've shortened it Red Academy. And what it is, it's a program, it's an 18-month program that is designed to increase the number of developers of color. And so, talking about diversity, so when you look at all the buildings that are going up in Nashville, but when you look at the developers who are a part of that, there are not many developers of color.
Right.
And so we're hoping that this program does that. It allows those developers who are in our cohort to scale up their business so that when we see these large skyscrapers downtown, we can say that was one of our developers.
Right. It's so much growth.
Yes.
One that's been here for now several years, but that's still coming.
Yes.
It's still this almost like a machine or a lomotive, and it's not slowing down quite yet.
Exactly.
It's got to hang in there.
Exactly.
But I love that. How many? I am familiar with the program. How how often will you all bring on a cohort? Like, is it once a year? I know you said it's 18. Like, was it a rolling year, or you wait until that cohort has gone through the whole program?
We want this one to complete first, because as we started this, we're still building as we go. So once we've completed this, then we'll have a better understanding of how to roll out a second cohort. But right now, we're not saying if, we're saying when we'll have the next cohort, and that's what we're thinking about right now.
Yes,
Mhm.
good. And is it something to where they have kind of industry leaders that are coaching them or through the process? Is it a
Sure.
class, partially class based,
Sure.
partially out in the field? Just kind of give me a rundown. What does it even kind of look like?
Absolutely. So each week we meet every Wednesday. The 1 week class consists of in person and a virtual class. We have industry leaders, subject matter experts from all over the city who come in to our class to share knowledge, impart wisdom to our fellows, is what we call them. And so it has been, we're in week number 7, I believe. And so they have received some of the most dynamic knowledge based information that they probably couldn't have received on their own.
Right.
I mean, it has been amazing. I'm not a developer, but I feel like I wanted to become a developer.
Just kidding. So that's why I was asking, where's the next name? You want to say my name. But, so thank you for that explanation. That really does kind of give me a good visual on what that really entails.
And she's right, because I said it on one of the classes, one of the virtual classes, I guess about 3 classes ago. And I'm like, Carolyn, I'm hardly not a developer. But when it was over, and it's what,
3 hours. Mm-hmm.
when it was over, the 3 hours was over. I'm like, is it already over?
Well, that's good.
Seriously.
Yes, when it's engaging.
Yeah, and it
Very
really
much
was.
so.
And it
Yes.
makes you, I think it makes you see the potential that the city has for what's going on out there. And just like you said, bringing more people to the table.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I love that. I'm very familiar with the construction industry. I've
Okay.
kind of served as a consultant and different facets in that area. So I'm very aware of minorities, majorities, and what that typically looks like. And so it's good to see that coming to the table for sure. Now, you also have some youth or educational type programs as well. Tell me.
So we work very closely with youth, as you said, because we all know. I mean, it's not just a cliche. I mean, the youth of today are our tomorrow, and why not start them off with a good foundation?
Right.
And so one of the things that we do with the youth is that we have a youth leadership academy every summer, and we have about 18 to 20 young men in our building for about 3 weeks, and these are young men that are aspiring to go to college and are looking at career choices. And so they will come in, they have workshops and classes. But the great thing about it is that they also will go out into the field. There are various businesses that are part of that offer kind of mentorship. So they'll actually go into a business and be able to see different levels of a business. For instance, it could be a business that's in the food industry area. So not only do they see those frontline workers, but they see the folks that are in the legal department and the HR department and the marketing department, because you may want to be an attorney, but you may not want to be in a courtroom. Well, then you get to see other options for that. And so they're really, really bright young men, and this is the first year I've been able to experience them. They get a little lousy, but they're young people, so that's okay. But yeah, so at the end, and then they also do ACT prep, and then there's also some tutorial kinds of things that go on, and so it's a great program.
I love that because I'm really big on exposure is key. And sometimes that is lacking and you just don't know what you don't know.
Right.
You see what you see on TV.
Right.
Yes.
The teacher, the policeman, and if that's all, there's so many fields out there in different areas. So that is amazing.
Yeah, and as Clifton Harris, who was our CEO, was saying, we were in a meeting earlier today, and he said, we want to make sure these young people have their plan B. Because for a lot of them, their plan A is that they want to be an entertainer or they want to be an athlete.
Exactly.
Well, everybody's not going to be able to do that. And if you can, that's a wonderful thing. But there are other ways to have a very lucrative career. And so those are the kinds of things that we're hoping that they will look at.
Yes,
Consider.
it's so funny that you say that. So several years ago. I was in workforce development. I actually ran the internship program
Okay.
and for high school students.
Mhm.
But what was truly good about it, some of them would come in full fledged. I want to be this. I want to do that.
Uh-huh.
We would partner them with in those departments, let them sit there, and by the time it was over, they were like,
I don't
"No,
wanna do that.
man, not what I want to do." But that saved them a lot of college funds going to something that they did. Oh,
Exactly.
they
And a lot of time, not
Exactly.
yeah, like going down a different path when
Yes.
this is where you want to be.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I love that you all are doing that. Now tell me a little bit about your health or quality of life. Is that a program or is that just kind of initiatives, things that you all?
It's more kind of initiative driven. I mean, things like we all know we're still in the middle of a pandemic.
Yeah.
So we've worked with Meharry and some other health related institutions to do like COVID testing, COVID training, just getting the word out about the fact that we are still in the midst of a pandemic. So it's important that, you get those immunizations, you get those boosters, that you can continue to, be safe and stay safe. So it's a little bit of everything, but those are some of our big health initiatives right now, just because that's kind of where we are
We are.
in the world right now.
Okay, okay, makes sense. And are there off-site events or you all are just supporting those local medical communities and places that
They're more
provide-
off-site,
Okay.
yeah. So we'll go, for instance, if somebody's having something at a community center, for instance, then we'll go in and set up a table and information booth, or we may have some of our partners, like, for instance, like Meharry, because Meharry is a big partner of ours, to come in and do either a workshop or do immunization clinic or something like that. So it's more kind of initiative driven. But again, we have lots of wonderful partners in the community, and we certainly couldn't do what we do without those partners. And so-
Now, do you remember how long has because I know the Urban League is in different states and all of that. Do you know how long it's actually been around?
Yes, 54 years.
54.
We're celebrating 55 this year.
Yes,
Oh,
established in 1968. And what I found out recently is that the charter for our Urban League is here in Nashville, Tennessee.
Yes.
I mean, not, excuse me, the National
National.
Urban League
Was in
is in Nashville, Tennessee.
And the National Urban League is actually 112 years old this year. So Urban League has been around for a long time.
Yes.
And what I found has been interesting, just with people, friends that I know that they now know I work for the Urban League. They're like, okay, I've heard of the Urban League. What do you do?
What do you do?
And so I start telling them, and they're like, oh, I didn't know you did that. I've heard about that, but I didn't connect it with the Urban League. So that's one of the things we're trying to do in our roles, is just to do things like this, is to get the
Right.
word out about what we
Outreach,
do.
making
Yeah,
sure people are
exactly.
aware. Yes, I love that because that's just going to drive more people in. Or I'm real big. I always like to say, you got the grandma that's on the couch that calls the grandson, "Hey, you need to go down there."
Right.
Absolutely.
That's what it is.
Absolutely. That's right. That's right.
Now tell me about the housing or community initiatives that you have.
Well, one of the things we try to do again is to make sure that people who live in this community can live in this community.
Yes.
We all know what housing prices look like, whether you're leasing or trying to buy, which is almost an impossibility right now. And so one of the things we do is to try to work with property owners to try to come up with affordable options for people to live. And the Red Academy that Carolyn can tell you more about is really an outgrowth of that.
Right. And speaking of that, the Red Academy their focus is on affordable housing. So when the developers when they seal the deal and they're ready to build, it is to build affordable housing. Amazon is our sponsor. And and one of the criteria was for, other than developers of color and being within the Nashville Davidson County region, was also to make sure that affordable housing was in that build.
It's so needed, and on every level. I
Yes.
feel like everyone, even if you have huge bank accounts and things,
Yeah.
people are still struggling to find
Absolutely.
housing because so many people have come to the area. Which,
Absolutely.
there's pluses and minuses.
Yeah.
Right. There are. I like some of the new energy, the new, thought processes and things that have also come. But it is a balancing act between
Exactly.
we need for the people that are helping in some of the restaurants, hotel, hospitality. I already know how hard it's been for hospitality for years. So now you've got, again, we got double the hotels, we got double the people. Where do you find the people? They can't live an hour away. You know, they need
Because
to
they
be
can't
able to-
afford
It's a struggle. It
because
can be for-
gas prices
Yeah.
so right.
Right, exactly. So
There's so many companies now that you can't often go to even a fast food place. And I went to some place at lunchtime, and the lobby was closed because they were short on staff.
I've had that happen several times.
Wow.
Yeah.
Several times. And it's so unusual. I think
It is.
once I was pulling on the door, like, it's just,
Yeah.
it is what it is. Now, you also do some things centered around justice, correct? Kind of justice and civic engagement,
Right.
things like that. Tell me about that.
There is a program, and right off the top of my head, I can't remember what it's called. But we partner with the justice system where they do exonerations of
Like
oh,
expungement?
expungement.
Yeah,
That's the word I'm
expungement
looking
clinics.
for. Yes. So we do partner there.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So I guess they kind of help them with filling out the paperwork,
Yes.
Yes.
the process, make that a little easier.
Yeah.
I've seen before where sometimes some populations they're a little bit hesitant to come out to do
Mhm.
things, just like who's gonna be there? That
Yeah.
somebody
Is it real?
Yeah, right. Is this one of those?
Yeah, right.
It's a football game, and yeah, it's not that. So.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so they help walk them through the expungement
Yeah.
process, which I know that can be game changing when it
Yes.
comes to employment.
Yeah.
Any other large, I guess, hurdles or challenges that you all have seen with employment, people gaining employment that are kind of hot right now?
Well, kind of along those same lines that Carolyn was talking about with expungement clinics is that we are partnering with the sheriff's department in helping those folks who are getting out of jail and out of the prison system that they've served their time. They want to get back into society and to be productive, and so we're helping them with that transition. And so we're, as a fundraiser, we're always seeking funding to help with that. But I mean, something as simple as buying bus passes for people, because if you come right out of jail and prison, you probably don't have transportation.
Right.
So how are you going, if you even have the opportunity to get into training or to get a job interview, how are you going to get there? And so we've had some individuals that have, I'm not sure how far they walked, they just said they walked a long way. They walked to our office to talk with our program director for workforce training, for workforce development, to get into the training and to get into whatever they need to so they can get a job. As a matter of fact, she came to the office the other day and she was so excited because she had gotten a man that she'd been working with for a while. He had gotten not one but two job offers and was going to take both of them. He was going to try to find someone to take both of them because he said, I need to get back in and start making money to help my family. And so we are finding that employers are also excited about that because, again, where's the workforce coming from? And these are individuals. Typically, some of them are a little older, so they've they got some maturity about them. They just make some wrong decisions. But again, they want to get back into the workforce. They want to be able to take care of their families, to be productive. And so why not work with those individuals?
Yes, I've seen before where, especially I assume that it's increased even more. Employers are, of course, trying to think about not only the wage, but what other supportive type and things can they be providing? So, like you said, the gas cards, or I've seen where some they'll offer free Uber for the first 3 weeks or so that the person gets their first paycheck and things like that. Have y'all seen any of those type of things going on?
Well, I've not seen that directly, but what I will speak to is the excitement that I've seen from those individuals who have utilized those particular programs and services. Having them come to the office and talk to our workforce development manager and just express, their excitement, their elatement about how they're on a different path now, and now they can see a possible future. Oh, that's oh my goodness, it's rewarding. Yes.
Yes, is good enough.
And you can tell when they come into the office, oftentimes they're a little tentative and a little anxious, but that's one thing I like about working with the Urban
Yeah.
League is that it's like working with your family.
Ma'am, absolutely.
And that's, if you're staying in the lobby because our office manager may have stepped to the back, if someone comes in, like, may we help you?
Yeah.
You're like, yeah. Can you get something to drink?
Mhm.
Yeah. So yeah, that's one of the things we try to make people comfortable because that's the first step.
Yes, warm and welcoming,
Yes,
and it doesn't matter who you are.
Absolutely.
We're here. I love that. Yes, that's very, very good. Now, all right, tell me, how can people get involved? Let's say someone's watching, maybe they have a background in, training. Maybe they just are like, hey, I want to support financially some type of way. What ways can people get involved?
Well, we are always looking for good volunteers because we are a nonprofit. Nonprofits are volunteer driven. We have a relatively small staff. So all the things that we've been talking about today,
Yeah.
we have, what,
7?
7 people? 7 people.
Yes.
And so we rely a lot on volunteers. We have a lot of events throughout the year, and so volunteers show up. We have an amazing board of directors that we serve a 9-county area, and so we've been very intentional in making sure that we've got board representation from that 9-county area. But again, board members can't do it all either. And so we have lots of people that jump on board. You were talking about trainers. If people have a particular skill and interest and want to be a part of that training, we can get them in touch with Patricia, who's our workforce development person. And of course, because we're a nonprofit, we're membership driven. And so we're always looking for people. They want to jump on board and be a member. They can find out more information on our website, which is ulmt.org. But it tells all about the membership levels and kind of what you get for each membership level. We also have some scholarships that we work with the people if they want to support one of those scholarships. They can do that as well.
Wow, thank you. And that was going to be my next question.
Sorry.
How can they find you? I want to make sure how can they find you if they want to find more information? Answer. And is your office designed to where people can come in,
Oh, they
or
do.
they need to make
Yes,
appointments? How does that work?
Both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We ask for appointments, but if someone wants to drop in, we're there from 9 to 4, Monday through Thursday, our office hours. It may change. We may have some Friday office hours, but right now it's 9 to 4, Monday through Thursday. And, we'd like people to make an appointment, particularly if they want to see the workforce development person, because she's out a lot. And so we just don't want people to make the trek over there and she's not there. So it's good to make an appointment. But some of us are always there.
Yeah.
And we're at 50 Vantage Way, which is in Metro Center. And
Suite 201.
Yes, that's right. As soon as you get off the elevator, just make a right, and we're right there, right by the elevator.
Okay.
Or look, I take the elevator or up the steps.
Up the stairs,
Up
yeah.
the steps.
I think I got it. And real quick, last thing, anything else that you just want to share, or your thoughts about Urban League, anything like that you want to share with the people?
Well, I just think it's a fabulous program. I had an opportunity to be a volunteer at the Urban League in St. Louis. So I understand and appreciate just how important it is to the community, especially to the African American community. So if you have an opportunity, anyone who's listening, if you have an opportunity, it would behoove you to go ahead and please seek us out.
Yes. And I try to attend. You all have a great luncheon every year.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
You know, the luncheons in February, so you'll be hearing more about that.
Yes. So that some people, if they don't want to give one way, maybe they're
Yes.
able to participate or
Absolutely.
support in any kind of way that they can. Well, ladies, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you.
I
Thank you
appreciate
for having
the
us.
opportunity. You all have talked a lot. So thank you so much. I appreciate you, and thank you all for tuning in to D-ConneXion TV. We'll see you next time.